In today's discussion, we will look at some elements regarding the subconscious mind from the book Think and Grow Rich. So, I've brought up through many of my videos the different successes and results from working with Think and Grow Rich since 2004. I like to revisit it often. As a matter of fact, I revisited today because I had an idea to further discuss some elements regarding the subconscious mind. So what I put together is 8 sequential lessons from Think and Grow Rich in regards to the subconscious mind. And I believe that they tie in nicely together, and I also trust that they will be helpful for you on your journey to realizing your goals, your visions, whatever they may be. Although the book is titled Think and Grow Rich, many who have worked with this information realize that we can work with this information to produce success or to experience results in any area of our lives, whatever it is that we desire. That's because what we're really working with is the power of the subconscious mind. This book was the book that introduced me to the word subconscious. It was through this pathway of first starting with this book that I discovered the works of Joseph Murphy, Neville Goddard, William Walker Atkinson, as well as going beyond that information and finding the source of the information. And so it's important then to trust in this power within that guides us to not only realizing our visions, but helping us understand how we translate conscious thinking into results. And should we have the desire to do so and discover where this information originates from, then we can also find it via the power of the subconscious mind, putting 2 and 2 together via the power of intuition. I was asked the question the other day, how do you know if it's intuition? Well, what we realize is that intuition is something that every child has. And for whatever reason may be, they may forget about this power or not really taught to encourage discovering this connection that we have within ourselves. And thus I like to, throughout these videos, encourage it more so because as I had been going on this journey, I realized that I can distinguish what is intuition, what is instinct, what is the programming. We get better at it with practice, and I found that this is a result of working with the power of the subconscious mind. And so this video will be beneficial for you to develop this deeper relationship with intuition, which is always there. All we do is recalibrate to this intuition. So he says, the subconscious mind consists of a field of consciousness in which every impulse of thought that reaches the objective mind through any of the 5 senses is classified and recorded, and from which thoughts may be recalled or withdrawn as letters may be taken from a filing cabinet. So we've been discussing this. Look at creation as complete. Everything exists. You can imagine anything. The key really is committing, or as we talk about in last week's video, I'll put a link in the description to that where we brought up decision. The key really is in deciding, committing in your imagination via your thinking as to what it is that you really want to experience. That's it. He says it receives and files sense impressions or thoughts regardless of their nature. You may voluntarily plant in your subconscious mind any plan, thought, or purpose which you desire to translate into its physical or monetary equivalent. Now we can receive visions, ideas, hunches from within. We can allow them to express, thus being who we really are. Or we can form certain interpretations regarding the 5 senses, form a self-image or programming in our own mind, which seems to distort this connection with intuition, as well as our ability to allow the subconscious mind to express the hunches and inspirations. The truth of the matter is, I realize that the subconscious mind is always presenting ideas, hunches, and inspirations. This has been the case for me and thousands that I've spoken with regarding this journey. The question is, does a person honor these ideas? As Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech, one of my favorite quotes, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you want to become. We practice courage, trusting the intuition, following the ideas, doing the things that we know we got to do. That's the key, knowing what you got to do. Perhaps it causes you to reveal certain programming, in which that programming is really representing certain thinking patterns in relation to fear. As we have learned, and I believe it was Joseph Campbell who said this, the cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek. And what I found is that we actually know which cave it is that we want to enter. We can change our thinking patterns or our relationship to whatever shows up and make peace with whatever shows up and actually find ourselves automatically moving forward in that direction. So when the impulses or the ideas are presented in our mind's eye as a result of committing to our vision, we want ourselves to be expressing of those ideas, allow ourselves to express. We see this a lot in the world that we live in today because we have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have all these different platforms in which a person can share their ideas, what they truly want to express. And the only thing that really holds them back is themselves. And it's not really their true self, but rather the programming that they're identifying with that appears to hold them back. It's really an illusion, and it's happening in mind. The truth is we are safe in mind because we are safe to think whatever we would like to think. We're safe to identify with whatever we would like to identify with because we know that what we identify with is what the subconscious mind works with. So if a person has certain thinking patterns in regards to expression, should they have a desire to express, then they can identify these thinking patterns, doing the subconscious mind work, making peace with these patterns, such as working with the principle of autosuggestion, one of my favorites, or working with imagination and seeing themselves as the person that is the ideal now. And those instructions are given to the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind expresses. So let's tie this into our 8 sequential lessons here. He says, the subconscious mind works day and night. The subconscious mind draws upon the forces of infinite intelligence for the power with which it voluntarily transmutes one's desires into their physical equivalent, making use of the most practical media by which this end may be accomplished. So we suggest not to worry or overthink regarding the hows. The key is the conscious decision. Decide to go after what you truly want, beyond any kind of programming, 5-sensory suggestion of what is perceived as possible. Listen to what you truly want, commit to it, decide. The moment the decision is made, it's done. You're on the journey to realizing that vision. Then we go into number 2. The understanding that the subconscious mind will not remain idle. He says, if you fail to plant desires in your subconscious mind, it will feed upon the thoughts which reach it as a result of your neglect. So, in other words, if we don't consciously decide, we allow unconscious decisions to repeat as the expressions of life, the recurring behaviors, the recurring experiences in our life. If a person wants those unconscious decisions to express, then that's totally fine. If they want to change their experiences, their behaviors, their results, then they want to recognize that conscious decision really is the way. So they decide that they want the goal. And they want to encourage this kind of thinking. So how do we encourage it, really? Through conversations, through self-talk, through behaviors, through environments, different ways of encouraging the same thinking. Think of a seed that is planted into soil. Provided that it is given the support, it allows itself to become a plant and eventually a tree. The beautiful thing about the human mind is it's likened to a garden, in that when we plant the seed, we want to encourage it. We want to commit to ourselves that we're going to actually allow the idea to express. And this is where intuition plays a role, because we go in the direction of where we find resonance. That's the key. Resonance. Resonance is the word. Watch the video discussion I did on the book The Kabbalion, in which we discussed that. I'll put a link in the description to it. Number 3, he says, it alone contains the secret process by which mental impulses are modified and changed into their spiritual equivalent. It alone is the medium through which prayer may be transmitted to the source capable of answering it. So we don't need to ask the question, how? What we want to do is practice faith. And faith really is acceptance of the end. As we said, acceptance of the end wills the means, some way, somehow. That's the power of the subconscious mind, allowing to express. And any idea that shows up, received within, is honored by intuition. Why is it then some individuals find it easy to express, and perhaps some find it challenging? We say they have to find the courage to move forward with that initiative. Well, as we reflect upon this discussion so far, and through the conversations we've been having all throughout the videos, we realize it's certain thinking patterns, unconscious thinking patterns, in which it creates unnecessary internal resistance. The cause is still within, and it's the individual, what they are saying I am too, consciously or unconsciously. And they don't necessarily have to say the words I am. We're talking about identifying with the thinking patterns. So they discover these thinking patterns. They make peace with these thinking patterns. And as they do, they find themselves automatically expressing. They allow themselves to express. And, some of these thinking patterns, as he says here in number 2, let's tie this in. The subconscious mind will not remain idle, so it's important for us to ensure that we're encouraging ideal thinking patterns. Number 4, the subconscious mind is the intermediary which translates one's prayers into terms which infinite intelligence can recognize, presents the message, and brings back the answer in the form of a definite plan or idea procuring the object of the prayer. Now, when it comes to prayer, we talked about this. Watch the video I did on Feeling is the Secret. I'll put a link in the description to that. We pray from the premise of unseen as present fact. In our mind. It's done in our mind. We commit and say that's how it is, in our mind. Now, what he's suggesting here, and I agree with this upon working with this information, is definite plans or ideas show up. Now, in the business building journey and different applications where I use this information, I noticed that an idea or plan will show up. Now, this is where it ties into courage, because sometimes this idea or plan goes beyond conventional thinking. It goes beyond what we see in the 5 senses as what other people have done to produce the results. This plan is different. And this is where a person really wants to ensure that they honor that plan, intuition, because as they do it, that's how they build this relationship, or we could say reestablish the connection to intuition and actually allow them to transcend past that programming or thinking pattern, which then, when identified with, could play out as a person experiencing what we would call lack of self-confidence. So in other words, if you want to increase your self-confidence, honor the plans, the ideas that show up within. And you'll know which ones, because you'll resonate with them. And as mentioned, they may be different. They may be unconventional. And that's okay, because what we're looking to do is honor this more so by revealing the courage that's already inherent within us, which is transcendent to the programming, and thus further encouraging, no pun intended, the courage to allow ourselves to express, ideally. Number 5, the subconscious mind will transmute into its physical equivalent by the most direct and practical media available any order which is given to it in a state of belief or faith that the order will be carried out. So we could look at belief and faith accordingly. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality, loyalty to the vision. That's the way it is. That's the way it's going to be done. Exactly how I saw myself at the end. And so as a result of it, ways, some way, somehow, reveal themselves to make it so. Now, belief is interesting because we form beliefs. We form beliefs, and what we want is encouraging beliefs. Beliefs that enable us to connect to our intuition, allow the ideas to express automatically so. And this is where we discover within ourselves, what have we been believing? And we have the power to change these beliefs. The beliefs change on the journey to realizing our vision because as we move down the journey through the commitment, the decision, what we notice is we see things accurately, see things how they truly are. And upon reflection, we form beliefs. We call these encouraging, empowering, or enabling beliefs. If we discover what we would call as limiting beliefs, disempowering beliefs, we can change them, again, with the subconscious mind work, through the power of autosuggestion, through the power of inner conversation, and even having a conversation with someone to really look at the beliefs that you hold to be true, but aren't necessarily true from the perspective of your vision. They may be true from another perspective, but in the perspective of your vision, identifying with those certain kinds of beliefs could end up creating unnecessary friction of doubt and indecision within ourselves in relation to intuition handing over to you via the power of the subconscious mind. So we make peace with it. One of the ways that we accept the end is to actually evaluate our beliefs and change our beliefs. Now, this is something that we can learn from others. When you listen to somebody communicate and they have the results, what you will notice, even if they're consciously aware of it or not, is they are sharing their beliefs. Through the videos, through the books, through the conversations, they share with you their beliefs, their perspectives, how they believe reality to work. And what you're really looking for is intuition. Tune into the intuition to what they say that is resonant. You'll notice this. They'll share a perspective or a belief with you, and you'll say, oh, I resonate with that. That makes sense. I never heard that before, but it makes sense. That's the belief we want to encourage. Because when we encourage those beliefs, we notice we have less resistance and friction when it comes to expression of those ideas. And so what we find, I've had thousands of conversations evaluating this and looking at it and cause and effect and just looking for the patterns, is that when a person encourages certain beliefs, it's easier for them to have faith during challenges. Not a prerequisite, because you can have faith right from the beginning. Because when you get to the destination, a lot of beliefs change. We call this the purification of the mind, or the spiritual alchemy process. And watch the video I did on that. Put a link in the description to it. Number 6. He says one of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. Now, we've been discussing this through psychocybernetics to look at failure or defeat or rejection as something that automatically recalibrates you over to your vision. I would suggest not interpreting it as something that leads to defeat. If you consciously want to not do it anymore, then that's one thing. But I personally would not conclude that what I truly desire, what I want to see brought forth, can't be brought forth because all is in harmony and in contribution to the vision. Now, that's a belief that I have, one that has been very helpful because that allows me to continue and not done from a place of force, but rather from a place of flow. If I experience challenge and I feel this energy of challenge, I transmute that into skill, practical skill, or energetically, some way, somehow, I'm able to transmute that into love, fear into love. We talked about that in Sunday's video. I'll put a link in the description to that. I look at the transmutation of energy as a skill. Number 7, he speaks of imagination and he distinguishes it accordingly. Number 1, he calls it synthetic imagination. Through this faculty, one may arrange old concepts, ideas, or plans into new combinations. Certainly we can do that to produce success. We commit to a vision and we see that we go with our existing beliefs or existing experiences, reference experience, and so forth, and combine it, rearrange it in certain ways to produce the success. He also refers to creative imagination and says, it is the faculty through which hunches and inspirations are received. It is by this faculty that all basic or new ideas are handed over. So this is essentially going beyond reference experience, going beyond perhaps what others have done. We see those that create things that have never been seen before because they work with creative imagination. We have the ability to do this. And I really do believe that this is really about trusting, perhaps encouraging a belief that there are many, infinity, unconventional ways of bringing forth success. What we see, even if it's the most persuasive, through any suggestion that that's the way to do things, there are infinity more ways to do it. By encouraging that belief, perhaps creating an auto-suggestion that says, I realize that there are infinite ways, unknown, nonlinear, and unconventional to bring forth my vision, and the ideal and the most accurate and true to me is allowed to be expressed via intuitive hunches and ideas in which I find myself automatically encouraging and expressing. As a person believes reality to be that way, think from that perspective, from that premise, what they will realize is they'll discover these unconventional ways, and we usually find them to be the path of least resistance. And number 8, faith, he says, is the only known antidote for failure. Now, I like this perspective because although we could say we can have a conversation about what we had perceived as failure and see it from a different perspective, if a person, for whatever the reason, is not able to find those interpretations, perspectives, then they simply accept the end again. As mentioned, for many years I worked with what I had learned from The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, in which he said, just keep the card with you of your goal. And I'm paraphrasing, but I believe it was something like, if you were overwhelmed with fear, doubt, and indecision for whatever the reason, pick up your card and read it. And what I would find is, as soon as I would read the card, I would go back into the state of mind, which would be transcendent too. And if I found persistent beliefs show up, I would note them down. And I would go in and do the subconscious mind work and make peace with it. So when working with the power of the subconscious mind, what we're really doing is we're allowing it to express. That's the key. Allow the subconscious to express, because acceptance at the end wills the means through us. Allow it. It'll change things in some way, somehow. And what we want to do is practice that level of faith. Now, I like to say the word practice because I find that anytime you bring forth a goal or a vision, it's important to commit to something else. Commit to the next goal, the next vision. Because that's where we go through this purification of the mind, the spiritual alchemy process, which is letting go of certain thinking patterns, beliefs, interpretations, perspectives, which we had unconsciously identified with. We bring awareness to them. We discover that we are unconsciously identifying with those thinking patterns and make peace with them. And through the process, we form certain beliefs that are encouraging, enabling. Certainly we find a lot of encouraging beliefs from these books, from these discussions. But it's also important to go within yourself and find true and accurate beliefs that could be distinct to you. Just because somebody has certain beliefs about how reality works, it doesn't mean that those beliefs have to be your beliefs. Try it. Try encouraging the intuitive beliefs that you have from the perspective of love that are related to the vision. What you will find is you will build this deeper connection with intuition. Now, we must be doers. We must practice this. This is something that we all have the opportunity to do every day. Every day we have opportunities. I would revisit this audio regularly. I would listen to it. And then I would go about operating from the premise of what's being suggested here and see it for yourself. Observe how the inherent self-confidence within you, which to me I find is the core programming. It's our core programming. I believe we are born that way. I believe we are born prosperous. We're born confident. We're born with the abilities that we're talking about right here. This is something that children do. If you have children, study them. It's important to study children because you'll see that they are great teachers. They teach us how to be. They operate from a place of faith. And because their subconscious mind is so receptive and they're so trusting, a person might say certain things to them in which they start to form without their conscious knowing certain interpretations regarding doubt, fear, indecision, etc. And thus also then eventually go down the journey of releasing from that thinking. But they are great teachers and we can learn from them. Because we recognize when we look at the power of the subconscious mind, they work through automatic expression. That's how they do it. And what we want to do is encourage that. And the way to encourage it in children and others is to first encourage it in ourselves. As we learned through our Neville Goddard discussions, no one to change but self. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. It's also very related to our autosuggestion discussions. We shall be further encouraging this and discussing this in our upcoming videos. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an autosuggestion that includes all of these 8 sequential lessons. We can say, I recognize that the subconscious mind works day and night to bring forth my vision, and thus I decide what my vision will be. I allow my mind to express while also observing, while also having a higher degree of awareness as to the thinking patterns that are not true to who I am. I allow myself, through the process of making peace within, identify with the true thinking patterns that are in harmony with my vision, thus revealing a higher degree of connection with intuition. Through this process, I find myself automatically receiving hunches, inspiration, ideas, which I allow to automatically express with ease, flow, love, and peace. I realize that acceptance at the end wills the means. And through this process, I rekindle to the true beliefs which further encourage faith, recognizing that failure, fear, rejection are opportunities for understanding myself and tapping into a higher degree of creative imagination, allowing the ideas to be received and automatically expressed as I transmute energy surrounding failure into higher degrees of faith to reveal perhaps the unconventional ways, working both with conventional and conventional to bring forth my success from a place of flow, transmuting any perceived challenges into opportunities in which I automatically move forward with to success. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.